have a complicated relationship with Instagram. Some days it just ruins me as a person, but then the next day it crawls right back to me and the algorithm reads me like a freaking book. A few months ago, I discovered this page called NestFed. The artist, I believe her name is Allie, makes these gorgeous, whimsical, hand-embroidered designs onto clothing. And she's done a few of these mushroom-themed sweaters. Now this is high quality. I just think she is so talented. I adore these. I think they're so magical, but I can't get one. Her business is thriving. Like, she's always sold out. Her commissions book up like way in advance. It's this whole thing. But as a person who likes to make things, sometimes I see somebody make something and my first instinct is to think, oh, I want to try. Like, that just looks fun and I want in on the fun. So I'm gonna try to create my own version of a mushroom sweater. It's just for me. I don't plan on like producing these or selling them in any way. It's just for my own pleasure. So all credit and love and inspiration goes to NestFed. I will link her website in the description box below. So if you wanna check her out, support her, please go do that. But now I'm gonna try to make my own like budget, mediocre version. Have I done this before? No. Do I know anything about embroidery? No. But you don't have to be good at your hobbies, you just have to like doing them. So that being said, I need a cardigan. I don't own one currently that would work for this project, and I don't really want to buy a new one because there's a high probability that I might ruin it. So I'm gonna look for something secondhand. I don't really like leaving my house, so I'm gonna look online first. I've had good luck using Poshmark in the past, so I'm gonna start there. I just typed in green sweater and started scrolling through the options. I came across this listing. It's a green cardigan from Madewell. I'm really digging these puffy sleeves and the pockets. I ended up getting it for $35, the original retail price being $98. That's still like a little bit more than I was hoping to spend, but I really like these sleeves and I already own a few things from Madewell, so I feel like I'll probably be pleased with the quality. So now we just have to wait for it to get here. I'm just kidding, I already have it. Let's open it. Okay, we've got a thank you note, tissue paper, and dun 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 dun, here she is. Ooh, okay. It feels pretty good. It's soft. Smells fine. I don't know. It looks pretty good. I don't see any like issues. Looks like it's in pretty good condition. The sleeves, yes. Okay, let's try it on. Okay, so here's what we're working with. Ooh, it's really cute. Yeah, I like it. I think the sleeves might be just like slightly long on my arms. You can see where the fabric like fully covers over this first like segment here. I think that's okay. I'll just have to like take that into consideration when I'm doing my design. But overall, I think it's good. I kind of wish it was like a slightly darker shade of green. I think I would just like that better. I could maybe try dyeing the fabric darker. I've never tried doing that either. I feel like this project is like maybe getting overly ambitious, but we'll see. We'll see what we see at the craft store. Okay, so here we go. I went to 2 different stores on the hunt for some yarn that I liked, and let me say, I was immediately overwhelmed by the options. Like, there was natural yarn, classic, blanket, baby yarn. Like, I had no idea which type I needed. I didn't do any research ahead of time just due to who I am as a person. I ended up finding this variety labeled as Comfy Classic, and it was very soft and squishy, so I got a few colors of that, plus a couple other brands and textures to try out. Is this the right type of yarn to use for this project? I have no idea, but we're gonna find out. I also took a gander down the fabric dye aisle, and I picked up this bottle of dark green dye by the brand RIT. I also got another product from them that I'll show a little later. And now we're back home. We're gonna try this. James Bond says there's no time to dye, but that's just not true because that time is right now. Now, the RIT website has some very thorough written instructions and videos about how best to use this dye. I have a stainless steel sink, which was recommended as a good dye vessel. Just be careful with what your dye touches because, like, if it touches my white countertops, I'm gonna have a bad time. I have pre-moistened my garment, and now I'm partially filling my sink with hot water from the tap and mixing in some boiling water I had going on the stove. I need the water to be around 140 degrees Fahrenheit. You want enough water in your sink where you can stir your garment around freely, but just keep in mind the more water you use, the more diluted it's going to be, and I'm trying to get that good color payoff, you feel me? The next step in prepping the dye bath is adding in 1 cup of salt and a few squirts of dish soap and mixing that all together. And then is the fun part where we get to add the dye. The website said to weigh your garment to know how much to put in, but I didn't do that, so we're gonna put all of it in and hope for the best. I already messed up and got some dye on my fingers, so let's put on these rubber gloves that I specifically set out and then forgot to put on. Okay, great. Now the website says you could also dip a paper towel into your dye bath to gauge the color. I did that, but it looked very blue. Concerning, but we're going for it anyway, baby, because I didn't buy any extra dye. Now we get to add our sweater into the dye bath, and we want to stir it around slowly and continuously to ensure even color distribution. This whole thing was very fun. I felt like I was making a potion, just sitting over here stirring my cauldron. Sweater soup. Delicious. The advised time for leaving it in the dye bath was 10 minutes to 1 hour. I left mine in the whole hour because I want the optimal color saturation. It does look very dark at first, but it is wet, so we're not going to see the true color really until it's dry. Then I'm just going to try to squish out any excess dye that I can get out of this thing before moving on to our next step. And then the other RIT product I got was this Color Stay Dye Fixative. You apparently can give your garment a second bath in this solution, and it helps the dye adhere better, I guess. So I added half the bottle of that to another warm sink bath, and then back in she goes. You can see some additional dye seeping out into the bath, but that's okay. That is normal, apparently. So once it's finished soaking, I gave the sweater another good rinse, and then I'm just gonna pop it in the washing machine with some detergent. And you guys, once it was finished washing and drying, we got this beautiful, mossy, like forest green color. I can't believe how well this worked. Like, hello? Did you guys know you can just change the color of your clothes if you want? Like, I'm shook by this. But now let me show you the other goods I got. This is a yarn haul. I got this dark forest green color, a brighter olive green, this kind of dark yellow ochre color, a spicy red option, this orangey, more of a clay color, a vibrant golden yellow, this khaki beige color, and a classic ivory. I did get the yarn, the dye, and these thicker embroidery needles, all for under 25 bucks, which I feel like is pretty good, decent for art supplies. I'm using a watercolor pencil with the tip dipped in some water. It works well enough to draw a guideline onto fabric, so I'm just sketching out my first vine that's gonna crawl up the sleeve from the bottom, and then we're opening up our first color, the olive green. I really struggled here, like, is there supposed to be an end to this, or I don't know, we're just gonna cut into it. And then I'm gonna double knot the end of the string, and then using this little threading tool that I have, I'm just going to string the yarn through the needle. And now we move in to the embroidery phase. I do feel compelled to point out that this video is not so much a tutorial as it is a portrait of a woman just trying her best. My toxic trait is watching one YouTube tutorial and then thinking that I'm suddenly an expert, and that's really what is happening here. This was extremely difficult at first. I was constantly getting the yarn tangled around the sleeve or like knotted up in the back. I think I even stitched the sleeve totally shut a few times and had to start over. Also, this plushy yarn that I chose for this is not really the move. It's not the vibe. As soon as I started working with it, the individual threads kept separating from each other, making it just like really hard to work with. So I was really like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? But we're gonna push through. It might not be perfect. It might not even be good, but it will be. Once I finished the stem of that vine, it was also apparent that I strayed wildly from the sketch I made myself somehow. In the moment, I was like, you know what? It's fine. We're really more of a free spirit embroiderer anyways. So I'm not going to sketch out anything from this point on. We're just going to let the yarn flow where it may. And then I'm going to add some leaves onto our vine here. If you're curious, the stitch I used for the vine is called a stem stitch, and for the leaves, I'm doing a fishbone stitch. Again, all of this knowledge is derived from a singular YouTube video called Hand Embroidery for Beginners, 14 Basic Embroidery Stitches. I will link this video down below in case you actually want to watch somebody who knows what they're doing. I'd also like to point out that this single vine took me an entire evening, like probably 6 hours of work for this homely looking thing here. So I'm gonna save you the footage and the time of all of that and just do like a pleasing little transition here for the rest of the vines. See, now wasn't that lovely? The second vine probably took me 5 hours, and then the other two probably took me like 3 hours each. So I did get faster once I kind of figured out how to get going, how to avoid the yarn getting tangled constantly. But still, took a very long time, and we're just getting started. I took that darker green and used that to fill in some of the gaps that occurred in some of my leaves. I thought maybe that would just make them look more put together, add a little bit extra color in there. It's kind of hard to tell on camera because the green yarn is similar to the green of the sweater, but I did like how that turned out. And now we can move on to adding some mushrooms. Ooh, I didn't end up using that yellow yarn, so you can just disregard that, but I did use a combo of the red and the orange yarn. Now my plan of attack here was to lay down a semicircle of red yarn, or more like a crescent moon shape, I guess, of solid red, and then use the orange yarn to make a highlight through the middle of that cap, and then use the red once more to shade in the bottom of the cap and create more of a rounded shape. I am sorry about some of these angles being a little wonky, but it's really hard to stitch inside of a sleeve, okay? Overall, I think the cap looks pretty good, so we're just gonna add some more of those. Oh, beautiful. Okay, I think I did 5 of those on each sleeve, and now I can add some stems onto these mushrooms. I want to add some shading or variation to these so it's not just a plain white stem. So I'm taking that khaki colored yarn and adding a little straight run of color just slightly below the red cap, and then I can use the ivory yarn to fill in the gap between the red and the khaki as if that's like the underside of the mushroom, and then I'll just continue that white down below the khaki color, making my stitches much longer, like we've got some chunky little stems here. Then I'll use that same white to add some little spots onto the top of the caps. In a frustrating turn of events, I ended up losing some footage of me stitching the rest of the details onto the sleeves. So that's really, fun and cool. But I do still have the transitions, luckily, so I'm gonna show you that, just me adding some more vines, using the remaining colors, and then we can check out the finished result. Okay, thoughts? What do we think? I mean, listen, it's not highly skilled, but I'm really proud of myself for this. It took so long. I would say at least 50 hours of solid embroidery. I even got yarn burn on my fingers, which I didn't know was a thing. But overall, I think it looks really fun. This is probably the coolest piece of clothing I own now, and I made it. I feel extremely cute wearing this. I'm living my little Forager girl fantasy. This is your sign to take something from your closet and spice it up, give it a makeover. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!